Welcome to the latest episode of Just Getting Started. My good friend Jake Tapper, who's got a new book out called The Devil May Dance, is today's guest.
I have a very supportive wife and 2 children, and they don't really care about what work hardship I might have just endured. It can be frustrating, and certainly the last few years have been very frustrating because of all the lying. But beyond that, I go home and my kids are completely in kidland. And my wife is in their world and also, what she does and dealing with her family members or whatever. And so the perspective is always there. The perspective of, that's great that you're on TV, but we have a Spanish test to study for. That's important, and that's really helpful because it's much more important in the minds of these people who I love so much.
All right, I love having friends on, and great friends at that, and highly successful friends who have made themselves who they are today, and that is how I bring in one of the best from CNN, and I'm holding up a copy of his book as well, The Devil May Dance, the latest novel from Jake Tapper, right here on Just Getting Started. How are you, Jake Tapper?
I'm good, my friend, and people should know that that's not just showbiz BS. No. That you and I have a genuine love and affection for one another. I see you and I'm like, true. I really am crazy about you. I really think you're a wonderful guy. I really do. It's true. And we go way back.
We do. This podcast it's about origin stories, and I guess we should start with ours in a way. Was it the late 90s when a mutual friend, my fellow SportsCenter anchor at the time, Brett Haber, got us all together one night in Washington, D.C.? Is that when that was? Something like that?
It feels like it was the late night. It feels like it. I feel like I wrote for Washington City paper at the time. Is that possible?
I don't know. You might have been with Slate, actually.
Salon.
When were you with
Salon.
Slate? Salon. Oh, God, I forget. When were you with Salon? My bad. When was Salon?
Like 99 to 2002.
That's it. That's when we met.
But I mean, like, you were so far. I don't even know what event we were at. Brett's
I don't remember either.
A college classmate of mine, and I was friends with him and his lovely now ex-wife Jennifer, great woman. And you were so funny that night. They had these like fried potato things at this event,
right?
And you kept calling them latkes, like mispronunciation of latkes. I think you had a girlfriend at the time, or you didn't have a wife, did you?
Not in the late 90s. No, not in the late 90s.
You were helping me meet a girl named Tammy that I ended up dating briefly, but you were assisting. You were like the best wingman a guy could have. You literally were trying to make her laugh and get her to talk to me. Do you remember that?
I do remember that, and and it was a heck of a night, and I had no idea that it actually worked out even in the slightest way for you, Jake.
For me, it did. For poor Tammy, we can't say that's true. She got the fuzzy end of the lollipop on that one, but for me, it did, and yeah. So that's our origin story, and then we kind of kept in brief touch, and then I think we reacquainted ourselves through a charity event we do every year, the Big Slick. The Big Slick, right? That's when we kind of
in Kansas City. That is when we did kind of reconnect in person in Kansas City. We
emailed. We emailed, but it was the first time. Yeah,
did. Absolutely. And I guess before we get into your actual professional origin story, I think I need to point out or have you at least point out for those who watch this podcast on my YouTube stream, on the Rich Eisen Show YouTube stream. What in the hell is happening to your office behind you for such a successful man? Is, I mean, there's like a coat rack, a small little that looks like a that you put together yourself, a little rack, a mini fridge. Are those supplements next to an empty coffee can behind you right there?
It's protein. It's protein for a protein shake. I do have protein shakes. That's the our mutual friend Paul Rudd. When I was trying to lose weight, he put me on the diet that he went on to get an Ant-Man shape, and part of that is 2 protein shakes. Late morning and late afternoon. So you're on
the Paul, like there's a TB12 system in the National Football League. You're on the PR Ant-Man, the Paul Rudd Ant-Man.
Well, yeah, system? I mean, like if I'm more like a kind of like a cockroach, maybe. Like if he's the Ant-Man, I'm not as I will say I'm not as devoted or dedicated.
Right.
To it, like I'm really good on the Paul Rudd diet until like 7 p.m.
Right.
Which is not really how diets work. Anyway, but no, they're doing construction.
Yes.
On my entire floor of CNN. So I came in after they let us come back into the offices, and all my stuff's in boxes. These aren't even, but you see these boxes right here. These aren't even boxes of my stuff. This is somebody else's stuff.
Are those just ties? Are you saying
ties are mine?
Those are your ties?
Ties and shirts are mine. Yeah, okay. The ties and shirts are mine. I got jackets over here. But normally there's a little bit more rhyme and reason, and the tie rack is, it's everything's in storage. I don't know what's going on, and I don't know when I'm getting anything back. I have no control over everything, but I do have ties and shirts.
And you've got this book. How about that? And how about that for a segue? There we go. I got the Devil May Dance right here for everybody. You have a copy too. You have a copy too. And I and I want to get to that in a minute, but I want your origin story first. How did you start? How did you get started, Jake Tapper? How does somebody get to be on the career path that you are still following? Right.
It's so funny. So I'm we're going to talk about my origin story as a journalist, not as an author, because because full time I'm a journalist.
No, I mean we'll get to that because you're clearly what you're doing. I guess your day job, your night job, or whatever that is. It's something that you love to do, but you're also trying else something new as well, which I'd want to delve into that. But before we get to all of that, as an author, yes. How did you start? Because we talked about Salon, even though I called it Slate before.
Well, it's okay. Those were at the time.
No, you're a newsman. You're about facts. You're about facts, Jake.
They came up at the same time, and Slate's still like around and thriving in Salon. I'm not sure what Salon's doing anymore, but anyway, the truth of the matter is that it's kind of odd that I didn't think about going into journalism until my mid-20s because it was part of my life from the very beginning. I am actually named after my dad's great uncle, who was a managing editor at the Chicago Sun-Times. And I did like a newspaper for our neighborhood when I was a kid, and I was editor of the school paper in high school and all this stuff. But then I just had no interest in it, I guess. When I went to college, I wanted to be a cartoonist. Long story short, I end up in my mid-20s having no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And I was on a ski trip with some friends, and one of the friends was holding a copy of the New Republic magazine, which in the 90s was just like, it was the hottest, coolest, and most interesting. Like Michael Lewis wrote for them. It was just a great magazine. And there was a story in there by a couple guys that my friends knew. And it was like a light bulb going off. Like, oh my God, like actual people that we know just like come up with ideas and write freelance stories in magazines. And it was just like a revelation to me. And I started doing freelance writing for anyone that would publish me. Anyone. The Dartmouth Alumni Magazine. I pitched something to Entertainment Weekly. And just like I didn't know enough to not be as bold as I was and just pitching and pitching and pitching. Anyway, a few years later, I had a ton of clips, and Washington City paper hired me. And from there, it was just a matter of Washington City paper to Salon. Then when I was at Salon, I started doing some TV stuff here and there for CNN and others. And then I really kind of got the bug, the TV thing. I was doing freelance writing, but I went to start learning about TV. Eventually, I put together a reel. And then I went to ABC News. That was a whole sink or swim environment, but I was there for 9 years and then worked my way up to CNN offering me my own show to anchor. And I came here in 2013.
What do you mean by sink? What do you mean by sink or swim, Jake? What do you mean by that?
Oh, well, just ABC News was tough. It was a very competitive environment. There were very few minutes in the day. The way that the place, I don't know what it's like now, but the way that the place was set up at the time was so that you were just constantly competing with other journalists to get on air. It wasn't like, here's 10 reporters and there wasn't some benevolent leader saying, and we're going to make sure everybody gets on air 3 times a week.
Yes.
Right. It was like a newsroom. Imagine a newsroom of a newspaper, but it's only 1 page a day. Right. And it was that kind of thing. And you're just, constantly competing. So it was just, I wasn't the prettiest and I wasn't the sharpest broadcaster and I wasn't, the only thing I could do was pitch the best ideas and break the most stories. And that's it. I mean, it was just based on work ethic because it couldn't be based on, there were people that were much smoother on television. There were people that were underwear model, good looking. And then there was me. And all I could do was work the hardest, pitch the most creative ideas, break stories, and so that's what I did, and it worked.
Was Peter Jennings still there? Was that
Peter Jennings was there? Yep.
What was he like? What was he like?
When I started at ABC News, it was just, it was Diane Sawyer and Charlie Gibson in the morning. Right. Robin Roberts did the news. Peter Jennings in the evening, and Ted Koppel doing Nightline at night at 11:30, and it was a dream, and I was with giants of the industry. And, they're all retired or in Peter's case, passed away. I think as Diane's in semi-retirement, she still does pieces for ABC News every now and then. It still does specials. But, it was just a very competitive place.
I want to pause my conversation with Jake Tapper for a moment to talk about my friends at Grove Collaborative. We can all agree, I'm sure, that running to the store has been very stressful lately for months. And there's nothing worse than forgetting something on your list and needing to make multiple trips. Shopping for home essentials should be easy, and that's where Grove Collaborative does come in. Grove is the online marketplace that delivers healthy home, beauty, and personal care products directly to you. With Grove, you don't have to shop multiple stores or search endlessly online to get all the natural goods you need for you and your family. Plus, shipping is fast and free on your first order. Join over 2 million households who have trusted Grove Collaborative to make their homes happier and healthier. For a limited time, when my listeners go to grove.co/Eisen, you'll get to choose a free gift with your first order of $30 or more. Making the switch to natural products has never been easier. For a limited time, when my listeners go to grove.co/Eisen, you'll get to choose a free gift with your first order of $30 or more, but you have to use our special code. Go to grove.co/Eisen to get your exclusive offer. That's grove.co/Eisen. I remember when I first got to ESPN, Robin Roberts was there too. She was on the early evening sports center, and I was just so taken aback that I was thrown in the midst of all of these people who I watched on television, and trying to figure out my own way at that point in time was pretty damn daunting. I didn't have to work to get on I was scheduled to do Sports Center. I didn't have to, like what you're talking about, kind of have to sing for your supper to get on the air because there were so many people just trying to get on one show in a way. You know, and I'm
It was
wondering
brutal.
how pressurized that must have been for you at the time.
Well, I mean, think about it. I mean, first of all, we should say, I guess your viewers and listeners know your origin story, but I mean, like, you were there at a time. It was Keith Olbermann,
Right.
Craig Kilborn. I mean, Dan Patrick, Giants.
Right. Well, it's similar to what you're talking about arriving at ABC News. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, that was in that regard.
But those were not the people I was listening were not my peers. They were, they were the anchors. I was just a correspondent. But it was real sink or swim. And when you're starting your career, you're an anchor now. I'm an anchor now. We're not worried about getting on air. We have our shows. We're worried about making them as good as possible, but we're not worried about getting on air. But when you are a correspondent, getting on air is like oxygen. And when you're not on air, you're like a fish thrown on the boat. And like, you're just like, I guess it's the opposite now. I switched to a oxygen metaphor. Now I'm a fish metaphor. But anyway, sorry.
No, it's all good.
The metaphors.
I like it.
The opposite metaphor now. But my point is, like, you're flailing because you're not getting on air. What is your worth? And yeah, and it was very, very competitive. And look, also, like, some very, very tough executive producers and anchors and senior producers and others. I mean, some that were just absolutely lovely and took a chance with me. The very first person to take a chance with me at ABC News, other than the people who hired me, were Diane Sawyer and Shelley Ross, who was the then legendary executive producer of Good Morning America, and they put me on air. And again, it was just work ethic. I can tell you exactly what happened. My big break at ABC News, because you get hired by ABC News, that doesn't mean you're going to succeed at ABC News.
Right.
And I saw lots of really good, talented, smart people get hired by ABC News and just thrown in the Shark Tank, and like you just never saw them again. And then 3 years later, the contract was over, and you'd hear that they were going to someplace else. But what happened was I was on email, and Schwarzenegger was going on Leno, and he announced that he was. This is 2003. He announced that he was going to run against Gray Davis, the governor of California. He was going to run against him in the recall election. Y'all are having one of those out there. Some of the same candidates. Mary Carey, God bless her. Anyway, I know that's your favorite. I know you've maxed out.
Yes.
If you know what I mean.
Hey now, Cinemaxed out. Yes, I understand what you're saying.
Yes. That's what I call it. Anyway, sorry. I'll keep it clean for the kids. So, anyway, Schwarzenegger was right. So the transcript comes out at like, I don't even know, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, before it airs at 11:30. This is a different era of this. People don't even, the kids listening. The internet existed, but there were no smartphones, no Facebook, no Twitter. It was basically just email and websites was how you got information. Anyway, he announced he was doing this. So I immediately pitched myself to Shelley and Diane and their team. I knew enough. I've been pitching stories for months, having less and less success, but pitching them. Anyway, I was just like, oh, here's an idea. Schwarzenegger's running. Let me do a piece about this, and I will incorporate classic Schwarzenegger film lines in this piece. I don't know this exists somewhere. But yes. I don't even think the pitch was it. I think it was just the fact that anybody was pitching this to them. That anybody was like, this just happened. I want to be on air. I want to tell the story. Let me tell the story. I'm here. I'll work through the night. I'm ready. And I always tell young people, like, you have to have something that they want. Nobody's going to give you a job to be nice. You have to have something that they want. And it might just be that you're willing to get up at 2 a.m. and do whatever the hell, you know what I mean? It might just be work ethic.
Sure.
That's what I offered. Anyway, I started doing story after story after story. And the next thing I knew, I was living at the Standard in LA and covering the recall for Good Morning America.
And here you are, obviously, all these years later. So just before we move on, and then we'll get to your book. So obviously the Schwarzenegger Total Recall, that was an easy one. What else? How else did you?
I really would like to go back and see. I'm sure.
What else did you work in? What else?
I don't know. It was none of my favorites. It was none of the, Aldi Halza, If you're watching this, you have a towel wrapped around your head and Cohagen on your ass. That probably didn't. I don't know how to work that one in.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not a tumor.
It's right. It's not a tumor. Okay, so you got a kindergarten
Consider
cop.
that a divorce.
Twins might be something you could work in. I'm just trying to see. Obviously, Schwarzenegger with winning a recall.
I'm sure I'll be back with part of it. I don't know.
All right.
I'm not saying this was not an audition for the Algonquin Roundtable. Okay? I'm not saying that these are bon mots that I want on my mausoleum someday. All right? I was just saying, I don't think this wasn't Isaac Newton. Yes. My point was not that this was a brilliant idea. It was just like, I was just like, what do you want me to do? I'm here. I'll do it. You know what I mean?
Oh, man. All right. So let's get to some here and now. This book that you have written.
Yeah.
Okay. The Devil May Dance. This is your second novel.
My second novel, but the first one I wrote that I thought, I think Rich would really like this novel.
Well, I mean, I read your first novel as well.
I know, but and you were very nice and complimentary and supportive.
Of course.
But you are a Sinatra fan.
Yes. So
you are a Frank Sinatra fan.
This is directly.
And this is all about Sinatra.
I should hold up the front. This is going to be my reading when I actually have time in June, because that's what I will. What is that? I guess that's Life. Riding High in April. Shot Down in May. But
nice.
I'm sort of, that's what I'm saying. I know I'm going to change that tune when I'm back in June, which is when I'm going to read this. Thank you very much. That is my karaoke go-to right there. So,
but you are honestly, of everyone I know.
Yes.
And I'm not. You know this.
You know a lot of people. You know a lot of people. I mean, Paul Rudd gave you supplements for crying out loud.
But he did actually recommend that brand. But of all the people I know, and you know that I am just as insecure as the next person. You know that's true.
You're being very self-effacing. No,
you know that's true. Okay. But you are the only person about whom I would say, I know you're going to love this book. I am so confident you're going to love this book because you love Sinatra, you love the Kennedys, you love that era. And also, just because you're a supportive friend, you're coming to the table expecting, like, with all of your heart, all of your nachas is going to pour into the reading of this book, all of your nachos.
And I love the Manchurian Candidate, and I can't believe that is a crucial part of the plot points of this novel. So I mean, like you're nailing all of the touch points for me.
It's all your sweet spots.
It is all.
If your wife was a character in the book, then that would be, and your kids.
That would be the end of it. But
it wouldn't make any sense because it takes place in 1962.
I want to pause my conversation with my friend Jake Tapper for just a moment to tell you about my other friends at Sleep Number. I love my Sleep Number bed. I get my sleep IQ score every single morning just to know exactly how well I slept. I set my side of the bed to the way I want my firmness to be, and my wife does the same. My sleep number is 60, hers is 70. It's just 10 numbers apart, but it really does mean the world of difference. And getting proven quality sleep from Sleep Number means the world of difference as well, because a good night's rest helps boost immunity, increase energy, and quality sleep improves recovery. Sleep helps us recover faster from exercise, injuries, and illnesses. Deep sleep decreases anxiety overnight by recognizing connections in the brain. REM sleep is essential for many of the brain's cognitive and emotional functions, since most of it happens during the second half of the night, so it's important to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Discover proven quality sleep with Sleep Number. Save $1,000 on the new Sleep Number 360 Special Edition Smart Bed during the Memorial Day sale. Only at Sleep Number stores or sleepnumber.com/Eisen. Don't forget the /Eisen. sleepnumber.com/Eisen. Why do you want to write a novel? Why do you want to do this now twice? Why, Jake?
Not only do I want to write a novel, I want you to write a book, and I've pitched you your own book. I've told you this is what you wrote. So anyway.
I know you have. No, I know, and that's why you're such a great friend. I know.
Everybody's going to read it.
I know. I'm too busy doing stuff like this. That's why I can't understand how you have time. How you cover like the election of our lifetimes. You are all over.
Yeah, but then it's over.
But I don't know how you do that. Like I'm covering an NFL season and then doing this podcast, and then I have 3 kids. I mean, you're a dad of 2.
That's what it is. I only have 2.
Is that right?
I only have 2.
This is your third baby right here. Right there's your third baby. The
only thing I can say is, first of all, people like you and I, and probably a lot of your listeners and viewers, we're a little type A. We're very driven. We're very, very driven people, and I really like writing. Mm-hmm. And now I'm doing journalism, and I love journalism, but I also love writing, and it brings me joy. And it also is a welcome escape for me from the nonstop nastiness, death, and destruction that I've been covering for the last period of time. Mm-hmm. So it's enjoyable for me. This was fun because what inspired the book was a story that you're probably familiar with, which is in 1960, Sinatra and the Rat Pack worked their hearts out for President Kennedy, Senator Kennedy, to get elected president.
Right.
And Sinatra, who was a friend of the president, then expects that John F. Kennedy, President Kennedy, will stay with him when he comes and visits out by your way at some point during his presidency. Sinatra, he has an estate in Rancho Mirage at this point. It's not the later estate he has in Palm Springs. This is Rancho Mirage. He calls it the compound, and he starts to build it up. This is a real story. This is not my fiction. Builds rooms, installs telephone lines, has a helipad built so that President Kennedy can stay with him. And at the same time, Attorney General Robert Kennedy is investigating organized crime, and it becomes pretty apparent to him that Sinatra is friends with a lot of the people he's investigating, namely Sam Giancana, but also handsome Johnny Roselli from Los Angeles and others. So this becomes a decision that Robert Kennedy has to make. Do I piss off Frank Sinatra, one of the biggest stars in the world who helped my brother get elected, or do I let my brother stay at a place where mobsters frequent? And that's the premise and inspiration for the book. I have in my book, Attorney General Kennedy basically blackmails Charlie and Margaret, the heroes of my first book,
yes,
to go out and investigate to see if Sinatra's really mobbed up. And the premise is that Charlie is a World War II hero and a politician. He's a congressman. So he'll be a consultant on the Manchurian Candidate, which they're filming right at that point.
So...
sold, right?
No,
you're like, that sounds good.
Of course. Look, again, the Hellfire Club was so phenomenal, and this I honestly, and I'm not just saying it because you're a friend and a guest and all of that stuff, and I do love you. I cannot wait to crack this book, and I hope to have like a week's time to just do nothing but just curl up with Jake Tapper in writing style, and
you'll finish it in a weekend. But beyond that, let me also say I would like to curl up with you.
Thank you.
But that's a separate, that's a separate issue. Like a spooning.
So do you? That's what I'm saying. Is like I
could be the front spoon or the back spoon.
I am totally in awe, Jake, because I know what you must go through to do your show every day, and then go home and put it aside to just be a dad and a husband, and then put that aside to be a novelist. I cannot fathom the brain equity it requires and discipline it must require. Did you ever have a point where like, I am not writing today. I just don't have it in me. Like I can't, I'm going to put it down. I'm going to stop, because that could be obviously a death blow, because you have to keep going to keep writing.
Not like because of energy. There were times that I wrote myself into a corner in terms of the plot that I thought, oh, fuck, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. And I took a few days to marinate.
But there wasn't an attack on the Capitol that took you. I guess you were finished writing at that point in time, right?
Yeah.
So when did you finish this? During the election? During the actual election? When did you finish it? When did you send in your last pages and it was locked?
I think last summer, at the end of last summer. No, yeah, Labor Day. Okay. By Labor Day, it was done. But also, let me just add, like, yes, I had the presidential election to cover, and my day job is busy and all that. But last year, from April to August, I was broadcasting from home. So that's an hour and a half commute that you don't have. Also, you know this, when you're in the office, how much of your time is wasted because people are popping in your office, talking to you?
Right.
I had none. I mean, it's not wasted. It's, it's lovely.
No, I understand what you're saying. Yes.
But time that's you could spend doing other things. Also, in a normal election year, I'd be traveling all over the place. Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, battleground state, debate. Last year, after the pandemic hit, I did 2 trips the whole year for work. 2. One time we flew to Michigan to interview Biden, and another time after he won, I drove to Wilmington to interview him and Vice President Harris. But so the truth is, in 2020, I had a lot more openings in my calendar than I normally would.
Interesting. Oh, man. And now you're back in the office and they stick you in a closet. I don't know what's going on with them, man. I don't understand. I would. I
feel like groundskeeper Willie is going to show up with a giant mop.
Do you have already a third novel idea picked out, or you just got to tap out?
I have a setting. I have a third novel setting. So the first book is in the 50s. This book, The Devil May Dance, is in the 60s. So I think I'm going to do the 70s. And my publisher is eager for me to maybe I think I'm going to do Charlie and Margaret's son. They have 2 kids, Lucy and Dwight. I think Dwight, who will be 18, 19 in the mid 70s, might be a fun main character to have, because Charlie and Margaret are like, I mean, Charlie's troubled, but they're good people, but maybe I could do something of a kind of like a badass, kind of like an anti-hero. I don't know. That might be fun.
So
in the disco era.
You're a disco. That's what I was asking. What 70s? Mid 70s? Like a
disco.
Bee Gees, disco.
The Carters roll into town. Everything's crazy. Studio 54. And the White House Chief of Staff is rumored to be doing lines in the Studio 54. That happened. Amen. And he denies it. I should note.
You should note that. Okay. Very good.
Yeah. The late, great Ham Jordan. But I'm just saying, like, it's kind of a wild time.
So I guess, putting this all to bed, what advice would you give to somebody if they, like me, saying, I don't know if I have time for that? I mean, honestly, you have given me an idea for a book. It would require...
your stories. They're your stories. I'm just saying put them in a book.
No, I know that.
They're your stories.
I've already done a book, Jake, and it was a book about the launch of NFL Network, and it took so much out of me. And so, like what you're doing right now, like coming on this pod, and I understand, we're friends or whatever, but you just finished, 2 hours of your show, and now you're sitting in your office for the moment. And
in my what?
In your office. It's air quotes.
What would you do if somebody came in right now and just picked up a giant thing of toilet paper and this is would it surprise you?
No, it would not. It would not.
So 2 things.
But I mean, honestly,
here's okay. I'm going to answer your question.
Please.
First of all, people should know the book that I tried to that you and I talked about.
Yes.
You tell these great stories about athletes, uplifting stories, amazing stories, amazing uplifting stories. And I just said, get 12 of them, put them in a book. Bang.
Right.
It's an uplifting.
The amount of research that is required and for me to find the time to do all of that, I
understand. You can hire a researcher, by the way. I mean, that is allowed. Anyway, moving on from that.
Yes.
Okay. 2, my advice in terms of time allocation and making yourself right is you have to commit to yourself the same way you commit when you lose weight. Or when you go on a diet, or when you get fit, or whatever, you commit. 5 days a week, I'm going to hit the Peloton, or whatever. 5 days a week, I'm going to run. And you have to make that promise to yourself. And my promise is when I write, and I'm not writing right now, but when I'm in a writing zone,
Yes.
I'm going to write every day for 15 minutes. That's it, for 15 minutes. Because everybody can find 15 minutes in their schedule. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, right before you go to bed, whatever. You can find 15 minutes. If you commute, on the subway or whatever, you just bring your laptop with you, 15 minutes. So that's doable. And if that's all you do, at the end of the week, that's an hour, 45 minutes. That's 4 pages. That's not nothing. That's good. Mm-hmm. So that's how I do it. And then the third thing is, I would say, I outline a book before I write it. And I think that really helps in terms of getting me, because it's like, okay, what am I writing now? Oh, I have to write this chapter where these 5 things happen. That really helps me. Some people write differently. Some people are George R.R. Martin from Game of Thrones. He has this thing called you're either a gardener or an architect. Gardeners just kind of go out and plant and see what happens. And I'm definitely an architect. I have the plans. For me, that's very helpful because I have this outline and I just follow it. And then, another writing tip that I read from somebody, a legendary writer for The Simpsons, he did a Q&A in the New Yorker that was fantastic. And his whole thing is get the script done first, even if it's crap. And then you can go and rewrite it and make it good. But the main thing is to have the structure. So those are the tips that have always worked for me.
Damn.
I think they would work. I don't think like I'm.
No,
Thomas
I guess
Jefferson.
it's just,
I
again,
think
it's
they can
just,
work for anybody.
but I think it's sound advice just in anything. It just have to be writing, that if you give 10, 15 minutes of your day to something else, whether even if it's charitable work, whether it's something else that can actually enlighten your life or enrich it in a way that makes you feel like you're doing something, that's some sound advice. Today's episode of Just Getting Started with Jake Tapper is brought to you by Geico. Do you own or rent your home? Sure you do. And I bet it can be hard work. You know it's easy. Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowners or renters insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com. This is a legit question, and I don't know. I think I may have asked you this, like on the back of a bus heading to the big slick celebrity.
Once again, the big slick virtual.
That's where we had this conversation about the book. I'll ask you this.
Like it shouldn't be virtual, and you and I should. I mean, that's not for me.
No,
to
I know.
judge.
We knock on wood.
I really look forward to seeing you next year.
Exactly. So last thing for you is how. Because I deal with this a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people deal with it in their jobs as well, where they do hear bullshit. They hear it, they know it, they could smell it. It's coming their way. I get spun all the time on my show. I know somebody, it's not life or death. It is sports, although it's very serious for a lot of people.
People get killed in sports.
How do you deal with that when in politics you're being spun? Doesn't matter what side of the aisle it is. And then you go home. Sometimes I'll text you after a Sunday because I'm on the air on a Sunday morning on my football Sundays, and my Twitter feed is filled with what goes on the Sunday morning shows. And I do see your back and forths in my Twitter feed, and I think to myself, my God, how when you go home, do you sit? Do you decompress? What do you do? How do you deal with that after you deal with that high wire act on live television, Jake?
I think it's probably very similar to you, which is I have a very supportive wife and 2 children, and they don't really care about what work hardship I might have just endured, because, as you note, it's not like I'm going through the pain. It's I'm having an interview or I'm trying to get somebody to admit something or whatever, but it's not. It can be frustrating, and certainly the last few years have been very frustrating because of all the lying. But beyond that, I go home and my kids are completely in kid land, and my wife is in their world, and also, you know, what she does and dealing with her family members or whatever. And so the perspective is always there. The perspective of, that's great that you're on TV, but, you know, we have a Spanish test to study for, you know, that's important. And that's really helpful, because it's much more important in the minds of these people who I love so much. Mm-hmm. And so, and TV, as you know, the other thing about TV is it's ephemeral, and we all get to try again tomorrow. Like, so if I have a bad day, or I mess up, or whatever, or I do something not as well as I wish I had, or an interview doesn't go the way I wanted it to have, I get to try again tomorrow. So none of that stuff really matters all that much. It's what I cover matters, but my role in it doesn't.
Right. And then I get upset when I see what people say about the way you handle your business. And I know you, and I'll say this, you know, I know you are literally the straightest shooter I know. And you are somebody, I texted you on occasion during some of the most important stories of our lifetimes that you covered, and you were there, and the way you handled it. And I know that it just pisses me off when people think that you have an agenda, and you are like the most agendaless person that I know. Even me Instagramming out, reading your book, you know, the responses I get, it pisses me off. And, you know, I just wanted to say that for anybody that's out here right now watching or listening, honestly, I know you, and there's so many people in this world, certainly in the world of sports, where, you know, you think you know somebody and you really don't. I really do. You're like one of the few people where I could swear that you are who you are, and I know you're not somebody who I don't think you are. And I just kind of wanted to say that, you know.
Well, you're very kind, and I am who I am, for better and for worse. And yeah, I mean, it bums me out too. But by the same token, I mean, I know a lot of people have had their brains broke in the last few years just by lying, or the reactions to the lying. I mean, there was a great New York Times story by Ben Smith about this crazy conspiracy theory that this poor guy
on Jeopardy,
who had won 3 episodes in a row of Jeopardy, was doing like some sort of white supremacist sign, and he was not. And I mean, it just shows you that it's not, there is so much disinformation and misinformation and mistrust in this society where there's this, you and I are of the Hebraic tradition.
Yes, we are.
And Michael Medved, the conservative radio host,
yes,
taught me, one of the last times I did his show, he taught me this great concept in Judaism, which is Dan Lakaf Zichud, or like in Yiddish, it would be your Bubby would say Dan Lakaf Zechus, or something like that. But in any case, the point is giving people the benefit of the doubt. That's the whole notion. Giving somebody the benefit of the doubt. Does this person, should we really just assume that he's putting up a white supremacist sign on Jeopardy? Should we really run there? And like so much of social media and today's politics, it's like people just assuming the worst about everybody. Now, look, sometimes people prove themselves over time to not be worth the benefit of the doubt, and that's okay. But I just feel like there's so little in our world where people can give each other the benefit of the doubt. So the stuff that you talk about, and it's from I assume in your replies, it's from Trump supporters these days, but like during the Obama years, a lot of times it would be from Obama supporters would be attacking me. I would be lying if I said it didn't, on occasion get me down, because I think I try to be a good person. I'm not saying I always succeed, but I try, I aspire, and I really do try to see the other side of arguments than from what the narrative is or whatever. Like, I don't automatically assume that this person is lying or this person's telling the truth or whatever. I come to it just trying to find out what the facts are because I want my viewers to know what the facts are. And sometimes that's, I succeed, sometimes I fail, but I'm always trying. So it does bum me out.
Well, I am there for you, and as you know, a whole legion of people are there for you, certainly when we're supporting what you're doing. And this book that I'm holding up, again, for the podcast audience, The Devil May Dance, go get it where all books are sold, acquired online in a bookstore. You are the best, Jake Tapper. Thank you for doing this podcast. I really appreciate it.
Rich, I love you. I'll talk to you soon, my friend.
You bet. And we actually got through a conversation without the whole Die Hard thing being brought up. So
you just brought it up.
Well,
you just
I guess
brought
in a
it
way,
up.
I guess in a way, just to wrap this up, you're somebody who says it's a Christmas movie. And I say it is not. I just on my own Instagram the other night there was a big Jenga tower that we put together with my kids, and I just took a shot of it, in somewhat disarray, and I said it did look like a tower. And I just basically said, welcome to the party, pal, hashtag Nakatomi Jenga. And only one person responded with an emoji, and that would be you, Jake Tapper, a Christmas tree. So technically, you were the last one who could not leave it alone. Oh, I saw it.
I didn't know that you saw my emoji.
No, I did. I actually hearted it, but that's okay. That's the way we communicate in this 21st century sometimes. So you were the last one to not be able to leave it alone, and I guess now tag you're it. Next time you have me on anything or whatever, we'll do that. You take care, Jake.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right, you got it. That's Jake Tapper right here on Just Getting Started. Clearly, I've known Jake for some time, and I'm so glad that many of you might, for the first time, have gotten a chance to meet the man that you see on CNN, or you have a certain sense of what his takes in the world are, or what his opinions are on the screen. And honestly, I wanted to bring that up. And what drives me crazy these days is me bringing something like that up could be viewed as offensive to somebody. He is literally the least offensive guy I know. He's a religious man. He is a man of many talents. And just, he is a dad. He is a husband, is what you just heard, the most important role for him. And I just wanted to bring that up. And, it's just interesting how you meet people just on an off chance setting, and you never know what sort of lifelong relationship or friendship that you may have. And he has brought up a book idea to me. He mentioned it here, what he thought or thinks is going to be a best-selling book. And I'll be honest with you, I just sometimes sit here and think to myself, I don't have time to do anything outside of what I'm attempting to do every single day, in a day where things can go so fast and things in this world go so out of control. This podcast is about gaining control of your life and gaining control of what you can control, or understanding that what you can't control should not make you feel like you've lost control, that everything that you want to do with your life is inside you. It is inside of you, of what you want. And Jake is an inspiration in the fact that I can't imagine his day being crazier, busier, more filled with plans that you have to scrap, because his day is so based on current events, and current events change every minute these days. I can't imagine that he takes the time to actually write a book, research it, and write a book. And it's so terrific, and it's so well received. So I guess, maybe I should put my nose to the grindstone a little more, or all of us should be out there thinking, hey, just when you think you don't have enough time in the day, maybe you've got a little bit more time. And making sure that when your day is over, taking the extra 10, 15, 30 minutes out can change your outlook, can change what you can do for yourself. If you can do something for others with that time, the phone calls that I made and time that I made in March and April to make sure that I was able to run for St. Jude was a significant amount of time. And it takes a lot out of you. But maybe, just maybe, all of us should take stock and find out if there is something extra that we can do for ourselves, for our mental state, for others in our lives. It's just something to think of, that there's always time in the day for something that you think is important for your self-improvement or that for others. Just wanted to mention that. That's it for this episode of Just Getting Started. I want to thank Jake Tapper. Again, The Devil May Dance, where all books are sold. Go check it out. You will not be sorry. That's it for this episode. We'll see you next Wednesday on Just Getting Started.